Make it plain.
Make it plain.
M.I.P.
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson.
Make it plain.
Get woke.
Folks, I am so excited to welcome back everyone to our monthly crossover with our friend, the Reverend Mark Thompson of Make It Plain, joining Woke AF so that we can make shit plain as fuck. So on this episode, we're going to provide I guess, what is it, Mark? A reflection, a wrap up, a Hail Mary to the past year, looking ahead to what we expect is going to be happening in January. But before we even jump into the specifics, I cannot believe that this is the end of 2021. Like my mind is still blown that we are about to be 2 years inside of a pandemic, that, even though Donald Trump is gone, Trumpism is winning and raging strong. How are you feeling as we're coming to the end of this year?
The year has, and first of all, always great to collaborate with you, Danielle. The year has flown by. And it's odd because we're still, I guess, coming out of or still in, I don't know if we're fully out of it yet, this pandemic culture and environment we're in. It's very strange. And I think, too, looking at the days and weeks to come, the news cycle is getting shorter and shorter. So we got a whole nother month of stuff that could happen before we even get to January. So I'm just trying to get to Christmas, which I'm not ready for yet. Not to mention getting ready for January. I mean, we even have, we just had another shooting. I want to talk about that. Coming on the heels of Rittenhouse, there's still this gun violence, but nobody says white on white violence. It's us. It's just we have so when y'all going to address y'all's problem with violence? And so there's that. You and I talked the last time we were together about the party, which many of us support, but doesn't seem to love us back. And it's going to languish. So this is it. This month is do or die for the Democratic Party, in the sense that if these pieces of legislation, and there's a myriad of them, from voting rights, ending voter suppression, all of that, even reparations, which I was on a meeting for today. If we have two, this is breaking news. I have not even announced this on my show yet. I'll make it plain. At this moment, with the total of co-sponsors for H.R. 40, the reparations bill, and the total of committed yes votes is 214, which means we are 8 votes from passage of H.R. 40. Now, what usually happens in that situation is when it's that close, it's like it wasn't Build Back Better. They didn't have all the votes for Build Back Better in the House. So what the leadership then does is they go and they get the last few they need, and they do whatever they need to do, twist arms, say, hey, come with the caucus. Some Democrats are afraid. Here's the irony. You got 214 people on the bill, but yet there's a small number who are afraid, well, if you do this, if we pass reparations, that's going to hurt us in vulnerable and competitive districts. But 214 y'all on the bill. And there ain't 214 members of the Congressional Black Caucus. This is a majority of white members of Congress that support H.R. 40. So what's the big deal? So we got to deal with that. And then really the whole jig is up. We hope that happens by the end of the month. But just like Build Back Better has to happen by the end of the month. And also either John Lewis for the People of Freedom to Vote, which was the Manchin Compromise. All of those would address the gerrymandering and voter suppression. I mean, you got states like Ohio, gerrymandering 80% for Trump's, North Carolina, gerrymandering 78%. I don't mean for Trump, for Republican House seats. Texas, 65% for Republican House seats. All of these states, Ohio, North Carolina, and Texas, Trump barely won. Barely. States that Biden won. Georgia, gerrymandering 64% Republican House seats. Won Wisconsin, gerrymandering 75% Republican House seats. So this is existential. They have the ability to gerrymander themselves a House majority without people voting them out. And I hope I made that clear. They create more Republican districts that we definitely can win in, and then they get a House majority. Manchin is doing that, and how one person still, how the White House and no one else has figured out how to prevent one person from having that power, and it's got to happen this month. So December is do or die for the Democrats.
You know, it's so, I don't think, you know, you use the word existential, and that is absolutely the right word to use. And the fact is that I don't believe that people across the country, regular Americans, understand exactly what an existential threat this is. I think that right now, even with what the Supreme Court is doing, with the gutting, completely dismantling of Roe v. Wade, I put up a map the other day on Instagram that shows exactly what the country will look like in a post Roe v. Wade world. And it is like about 10 states that women are going to be able to get an abortion in. And it is going to be outlawed, because what people don't know is that they have trigger laws that are in place, that if you move viability, right, of a collection of cells, if you move viability from 24 weeks, right, to 15, then there's no reason why it won't be 10, it won't be 9, it won't be a week, right? And so these trigger laws that folks in the South and across the Midwest have are just itching and waiting. And the thing that I have put up and said is that if you think this stops at Roe v. Wade, you are out of your mind. This Roberts Court is the reason why we have over 400 bills right now, right, across the country that are about gerrymandering and voter suppression. It's because of the decision that was made, right, to end pre-clearance for historically racist states in this country. Roberts wanted us to believe that what Rachel Maddow had said on the election night of Obama, oh, we're post-racial, so we don't need to have the same pre-clearance when these historically racist states that have been ground zero for domestic terrorism in this country, oh, they don't need any more oversight when they decide to change their voter suppression laws. As soon as that became the new law of the land, as soon as we hollowed out this 1964 act, Republicans, the salivating that we have seen, right, the chomping at the bit to undermine our democracy and to literally silence the voices of the majority of this country. You see, because when we all got the alert that 2030, 2050, it was going to be majority minority, right? Majority BIPOC people in this country, right? We're all sitting around applauding and getting excited. They got actionable.
Yeah.
The white supremacists got actionable. And so if this is what it looks like when we have the House, the Senate, and the White House, what do we think it's going to look like when they take back the House and the Senate in 2022, and they're not even doing it on any policy? They're just doing it on saying, we're about white supremacy. We're about no mandates whatsoever, unless we are mandating what a woman can and cannot do with her reproductive health.
More MIP after this message. You know, you're right. That Roe piece was pretty a devastating display of just subjugation, and then the Mississippi AG comparing Roe to Plessy versus Ferguson. And I think that Justice Sotomayor probably gave one of the will go down in history as one of the greatest quotes in the history of the Supreme Court, when she said, "This looks too political. What will the result of the stench be from making these types of decisions?" But I'm gonna tell you, last night I'm on Twitter. I started to call you, see if you got your passport ready. I was like, let's go to Poland. Them people in the streets, it looks like the Million Man March and the Women's March, all together at the same time in Poland right now for the same reason, because they're trying to outlaw abortion. They are in the streets. So now, if we were to do that in this country, if they really go back against Roe, and see, women, this is where y'all come in. I'll tell you something right now. Women can change this whole thing. That's the only saving grace. If they reverse Roe, Danielle, and then women respond en masse at the polls and elsewhere, that might be the only thing that keeps them out of the majority. To me, that's a big gamble for them, because do you want to awaken this sleeping giant? And by sleeping, I mean, women have yet as an electorate. They did it in 2020. That's why Biden's there. Women decided, okay, we finished with Trump. But then they decided to come back in Kentucky and let us know we just want to get rid of Trump, but we'll deal with moderately racist people. But women have got to decide, as the majority of people in this country, the majority electorate, are you going to allow them to take away your reproductive rights? It's tricky, because for a segment of the white women's electorate, things go back to the way they were before Roe.
Yep.
They can still get abortions.
Yep.
Because they can afford to go somewhere and get them. So the question is, will they stand up for women who can't afford that right to privacy? And just one more thing, it ain't just about abortion, y'all. As Danielle said, it's a slippery slope to everything else. See, folks saw them take away the teeth, extract the teeth from the Voting Rights Act. And nobody thought, well, they might do the same thing to Roe or the same sex or the marriage equality. But that's what they do. They start in one place, and then they start coming for everything. If y'all think you don't think they can reconsider, and see, some people on the front line already get that. They already bracing for them to come back to marriage equality even.
Yep.
So this is we cannot rest. This is the war we're in, and people have got to stop being radicalized by false issues like critical race theory. That's not real. Right now, it's about critical voter suppression theory, critical women's rights to their own body. That's the real stuff. But they want to distract you. Oh, Mark and Danielle trying to get a critical race theory in the schools. No. We're not trying to get critical race theory ain't in the schools. It never was.
No.
And if anything, the movement that we had back in the 90s, late 80s and 90s, around changing curricula, African-centered curricula, multicultural curricula, we lost that battle. They beat us on that. And so we would have been the ones to bring that back up. Y'all bringing up critical race theory to use it as a foil to mobilize white fear, to stoke white fear for no reason at all.
Mm-hmm. The reality here, too, is that you want to go back to marriage equality. And I tweeted and I said, I want you to recognize Roe v. Wade has been around for 48 years, right? And you're looking, I'm saying, go back to Brown versus the Board of Education. If you think that isn't going to be up on the chopping blocks. And I said, everything that you think was codified into law is the quote unquote law of the land, became up for grabs when Mitch McConnell stole Merrick Garland's Supreme Court seat.
That's right.
And then got two additional, right? Got two additional. That's what happened. You have over 300 federal judges that were put in by Donald Trump, many of which the American Bar Association said are not even qualified. And then you have 3 Supreme Court justices that were also put in by Trump. People think that getting rid of Trump was going to be, our saving grace. Trumpism is going to be here for generations, right? Kids that are not even born are going to have to live under Trumpism because of what Mitch McConnell was able to do to the courts and what we allowed him to do, because there was room there for pushback. There was room there for lawsuits. There was room there. But Obama, you know, said, I don't want to ruffle feathers. I don't want to do, I don't want to be up in arms around this. You know, we can still collaborate with people who have been at war with you. And again, you use the exact right word, war. This is the war that we are in. They have been waging a nonviolent civil war that just recently, with Kyle Rittenhouse being the first shot, literally, over the ball, right, has turned violent. You have Paul Gosar in Congress, a congressman, putting out violent anime of him murdering one of his colleagues. Where do folks think that this is going? You have Marjorie Taylor Greene with an AR-15, sunglasses on, and gunshots behind her, again with the faces of her colleagues. So we keep wanting to believe and operate in this false reality that we are in a two-party system where you have Republicans that believe in the success of the country regardless of who is at the helm of it. And what Republicans have been telling us and showing us since 2008 is that they don't want the country to succeed, that they benefit more if it is in peril. Right? Because they're able to hold power, grab power, and scare the shit out of people into believing that somebody's coming to take your guns, a black man's going to marry your white daughter, and like all hell is going to break loose. I mean, this is where we are. Mark, you brought up, we had a school shooting, right? This was, according to analysts who do gun rights, this was the 28th school shooting this school year. It's December.
Yeah, right. Just December.
It's December. School has only been in session for 4 damn months. And it's the 28th one. 4 kids are dead. Right? But you have parents, you have white parents in the Midwest and in the South wanting to protest at school boards for mask mandates that they think will traumatize their kids. Where the fuck are the protests for not sending your kids to school in a hail of bullets?
That's right. That's right. More MIP after this message. That's right. Because that's the culture of America. Bullets are okay. We're good with that. We can have bullets. It turns out the mother of the shooter thanked Trump for the right to bear arms in a 2016 open letter. This is the culture. This is the culture of America. Violence, intimidation, the romanticization. These people still romanticize January 6th. They don't see anything wrong with it. They still see that as okay.
Mark, they romanticize and still perform the Civil War. They have Civil War reenactments. Of course, of course, they are still romanticizing January 6th because they think that those motherfuckers were patriots. Right? Like they're patriots. They stood up for what was right. You have Kyle Rittenhouse that killed 2 people. Marjorie Taylor Greene's trying to give him a Congressional Medal of Freedom. You have members of Congress that will want to arm wrestle to make him a congressional intern. So if I'm a woman of color and I'm working on Capitol Hill, if I'm Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Representative Ilhan Omar, and you're talking about bringing in a murderer to come and work on Capitol Hill, and then you're sending out violent anime videos. Why are we still acting like this Republican Party is a party of opposed ideology when what they are is a terrorist organization that is very well funded by the fucking taxpayers? That's the conversation that I want to see and be having in mainstream media when they're still bringing on Republican representatives talking about, oh, I think they're going to be gumming up the works. They are literally organizing an army of the unvaccinated and literally organizing militias to come take this country back. Yeah. But we want to pretend right now that the biggest problem that we're dealing with is an impending government shutdown when they are trying to shut democracy down.
Well, I guess we sound real Christmassy on this show today.
Let me be the Grinch, okay? Let me be the Grinch.
It's
because
beginning to look a lot like an insurrection.
Yeah, it's beginning to look a lot like autocracy everywhere you look. Like, I mean, it to me, you know, and I want to get your thoughts and reflections too on the recent cases that we followed with regard to the McMichaels, right, in the killing of Ahmaud Arbery, who were found guilty on pretty much all counts, to the Rittenhouse case, right? And what I have said on Woke AF so many times is that, you know, white America loves to see this like kind of cancel out approach, right? So that they can continue to believe that the justice system actually works, when in fact it does not. Because the fact that we were praying, right, for a guilty verdict in the McMichaels case, when it was so evident, right, what happened, and that if it had not been for people uprising, for people marching, right, that 2 DAs and the cops in Georgia sent the McMichaels home with blood on them, talking about go along with your day, right? There would have been no trial. There would have been no guilty verdict. And I had to remind folks of that wanted to say, oh, well, at least justice was served in this case. What the fuck are you talking about, justice? Are you crazy? Right? And so, you know, what are your thoughts when we have these two very clear cases? And again, Kyle Rittenhouse didn't kill Black people. He killed white folks. He killed the white folk allies, just like they were killing white folks, you know, during the civil rights, you know, bus tours into the South, ripping people up and tearing them off of the buses, beating the shit out of them, blowing them up. You know what I'm saying? So it's the Freedom Riders. It's the same situation. And they weren't convicted then, and they're not being convicted now.
Yeah, yeah. This is, I mean, all of that is true. All of that is real. The thing is that it's hard for us to feel, but so much relief from the McMichaels trial when we know that Ahmaud never should have been killed in the first place. And you're right. It was just really prayer and grace and intervention that those charges were even brought. People had to go down to Georgia. And that's why the defense attorney didn't want any of us down there, any preachers, any leaders, any civil rights folk, any activists, because if it had not been for that type of activism, that other prosecutor never would have gotten called out. This case would have never have been seen. And it really would have been shameful, because I don't know if you remember this or not. The timing, folks. Arbery was before Floyd.
Yep.
Now, and people may not remember this now, because we would, if you go back to remember being stuck in the house. Arbery happens, and that video was on a loop for days. And it really traumatized the whole country. I mean, I had white folks I hadn't heard from years. I hadn't heard from white folks don't even like me. I said, man, we got to talk. That's what you want to talk to me for. I can't believe this. This stuff still happens. Yeah, we've been trying to tell you all that. All right. I mean, it really mucked people up, right? And then comes Floyd to just put the, you know, the exclamation point on it. And then right after that, Breonna Taylor. That was the summer, y'all, of 2020. And as traumatic as those first Arbery, and it was so bad. Remember, there was even a movement to get people. So don't show the video anymore. It's too traumatic.
Right.
It's too triggering. It's dishonoring to the victim. And I don't know. I had mixed feelings about that because Mamie Till Mobley put Emmett Till's pictures out there for the people, the world to see. So I don't. There's a thin line between that and something else. But be that as it may, it was taken down, and then nothing was still going to happen. Nothing was going to happen. This is the reality of everyday life in America, that we have to pray that our sons and daughters are not pursued and killed in this way. that is something we wake up every morning as Black people that crosses our minds, that this could happen to us. And then like you said, you get Rittenhouse. Well, yeah, he killed a couple of white people, but these were people who were demonstrating in support of Black Lives Matter.
Yep.
And he could have very easily killed 2 Black people, could have killed anybody. And he might, and others might.
Yep.
There may be more Rittenhouses because you've even got laws now. One of the things Color Change is fighting, you've even got laws now that encourage people to harm First Amendment protesters. Mm-hmm. That's scary. So how many amendments are there? How many amendments in the Bill of Rights? I don't remember. 10, 12? I can't remember. Okay. 10 amendments, I think. Mm-hmm. This ain't amendment 2, 3, 4, 5. This is amendment 1.
Right.
The very first amendment is the right to assemble.
Right.
And 1. They didn't put it on the list of priority. They didn't put it down 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It is 1. And they're saying now that you can be a Rittenhouse. You can kill. They have a First Amendment right to protest. You have a First Amendment right to kill them. That's what happened with Heather Heyer in Charlottesville. And that's to scare us. And it is scary because that could be any one of us. Any day, car can run over us in a demonstration.
That's exactly what DeSantis. That's what he passed, right?
Yeah, that's
that if you were shutting down, because what had become effective, if folks remember back in 2019, 2018, what had become effective was shutting down the highways, shutting down the roads, in order to protest, right? If I got to live a life of being traumatized, right, then I'm going to inconvenience you. How about that? Because racism, systemic racism is fucking inconvenient to me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so then you have all these slew of Republican governors and mayors being like, oh no, kill him. Yeah. Right? And nothing will happen to you. It's the same thing that Donald Trump had said at his rallies during the 2016 presidential election. Rough him up, kill him, knock him out. I'll pay your legal fees.
All that violence.
Right? And so this is the thing when you said at the beginning, because we do not control the media, right? Black and brown people have always been presented as if we are the violent ones that need to be subdued, that need to be put down. We are the animals, right? But if you actually look at the history of violence in this country, who the fuck is at the helm of it? From the Trail of Tears to hundreds of years of its slavery, right? To then 100 years of Jim Crow. Who is the one that is wielding the power of terror and violence in this country? It is white America.
Yeah. Yeah.
But because they're the ones that are in control and are the ones that get to tell the narrative, that get to write the history, that get to decide who and when and how it is taught, they get to say that it's us, that we have to act in reaction to and in protection of our land, our home, our property. Because without such, they'll run amok. There'll be a whole revolt, right? Why all the Black kids can't sit together in the cafeteria? Why Black people can't gather without being passed by police on the fucking street? Going all the way back to slavery. No. Because too many Black people and brown people together talking, they must be trying to overthrow the system. And in this fucking case, I absolutely am.
Overthrow. Yeah.
I mean, because I don't know when we're going to overcome, Mark. So my feeling, right? You've been working to overcome. You've been marching and preaching to overcome. And I'm like, I am ready to overthrow. Because I don't see, I feel, and this is, one of the last questions for you is that, like, do you see an option as we are headed into this new year, to this election year, to this cycle? We have a new variant, right, of COVID-19. We got federal judges that are blocking the president's vaccine mandates to just ensure that COVID continues to mutate on itself every single moment. Right? We have killers that are being allowed to, you know, walk the streets and attend college and just act as if all is okay. Right? We got gun violence running amok. I mean, we got abortion on the line. Like, where do you see, because tell me, where do you see the hope as we're getting ready to turn this calendar year of our ability to fight back against what I am seeing as the inevitable?
Well, I think that that's a very interesting question you're asking. The hope in our ability to fight back. Part of the problem and part of the culture in America is that it promotes and encourages apathy. If we could get a vaccine for apathy, we could slay all these dragons. But we don't have one. And when those who are oppressed, be they African Americans or immigrants or women or LGBT, whatever group is dealing with oppression, and then the overarching oppression for all of these people. One of the things I think Bishop Barber does is point out how all of us in middle class are really de facto working poor. So when you don't have any money, you're just trying to make it. It's even more challenging to fight back and do the very overthrow you're talking about. It's not always as many because everybody's just literally struggling to try to make ends meet. And that's how they control us. That's what capitalism does. We've got to figure out a way to enable people to get out here and still provide for their families minimally, but at the same time get in the streets. Other cultures do it. We in this country somehow tend to be more placated by certain things that distract us from doing that. We look at other countries around the world, folks get out on the street, they shut it down. What you're saying, overthrow. We may have to get to that point, and it may take Roe, because I mean I do think women play an important role in this, because at the end of the day, if women got organized and mobilized, it would make a great deal of difference, especially young women. It may take something like Roe to get that done, but there's the hope and the ability for me is that I know that we have the capacity to do it. The question is whether or not we have the resources and the energy. Just for example, and this is not what I'm about to say is not even revolutionary, what you're talking about, and I'm totally about revolutionary. But see, even in my case, you know, when I was a younger man, not that I'm not still young, I would talk more and more about revolution, ready for the revolution. And that's how Kwame Ture used to always greet people when he answered the phone, ready for the revolution, ready for the revolution. But when you're out here moving around, you have to stay within the context of where the people are. Well, we were the only people saying that. So nobody else was talking about revolution. So we kind of had to work within the confines of what people's will and capacity was. Okay, so now if we could just do this one thing, figure out a way for there to be universal voter registration. And by that, I mean, if we did it ourselves, like everyone just to say, you know what, I'm gonna make sure I'm registered and I'm gonna go vote. And I'm not going to vote federal elections. I'm gonna vote down the ballot. See, we had voted more down the ballot.
Yeah.
We would control more state legislatures and then affect this redistricting. But we didn't have the whatever the political culture is right now. It was too much. We just got Trump. We got to get Trump out. There was not enough bandwidth for people to be organized and for people to receive. We can't just do Trump. We got to do the state thing too. That was hard for people to get their minds around. But if we stayed in these streets, if we made this country ungovernable, and there are people like us who just waiting. We're holding the fort until everybody else gets there. But we've got to get there. People have got to figure out a way to get mobilized. And I think it's not a scare tactic to say, y'all, we could be looking at Republican leadership, Republican control of government again. We always have control of the Senate. I mean, of the SCOTUS of the Supreme Court for a generation. We could be looking at it in the House and Senate. And then, I mean, Trump could go back and win the White House again.
Yeah.
Before we go, because I have to ask you about that. What do you think about the way the media is kneecapping Kamala Harris? They want to make sure that somebody who looks like you better not even think about running for president or being the person to succeed Joe Biden.
Yeah. You know, I have been wondering for quite some time where the hell Kamala Harris has been, right? I had joked and I had said, you know, on Woke AF many a times, I'm just like, should we put her on a milk carton? Because I am unclear about what the administration is doing to utilize one of their best weapons against the Republicans. Now, if folks remember that Kamala Harris's campaign slogan was prosecuting the case against Donald Trump. Now, there is no reason that following the insurrection that the former attorney general of the largest state in the country was not out front railing against all of the Republican obstruction, the criminality, and allowing her to do what she did across the country to Bill Barr during his confirmation hearing. Like, you think we're dumb, right? You think that we're not paying attention, right? They are not allowing her to do that. And it is the administration's fault, because I'm almost like, they wanted us to be really excited about the fact that a Black woman, a woman of color, Asian Pacific Islander woman was going to be vice president of the United States. And then they wanted to hide her so as not to what? Remind white people that there's a woman of color that is vice president a heartbeat away from the presidency. So I'm like, it's not just the media, because this administration is not utilizing. And now rumors are swirling. You have Simone Sanders that just announced that she's going to be leaving the office. You have Ashley Etienne, who is her communications director, that is also going to be leaving. And this is just the first two of very high profile losses from the vice president's office. So I'm saying to myself, what the fuck is going on? So on one hand, it isn't just the media. The media is always going to do what the media does to Black women and Black people, right? Like that is a given. But this is, what is the administration doing to support and uplift and put her in a position to win? And instead of having this fraught faux competition between a Pete Buttigieg, right, and a Kamala Harris, like, who is 2024 going to be about? And I'm saying she needs to take her voice back, right, and command a presence that is not worried about what the reaction is going to be from the right, but is about what we are doing right now in the moment, in the present time, as they are stealing our democracy in broad goddamn daylight.
Well, I know why you haven't heard from her. And you know it too. Let's think about this. Just remind everyone. Right before she was selected, the characterization was made that she's too ambitious. And if you notice, ever since then, it's almost as if his deal was cut. That, okay, after Black women and Black men got together and said, that's out of the question, you better pick her now. So after he was forced to pick her because she was not the first choice by anybody on the Biden team, okay, I'm sure a deal was cut that said, now, we do think you're too ambitious. That's out there in the public. So you better not be ambitious. And so she was sabotaged from the very beginning. And can't really, and I mean, she is, and vice presidents are vice presidents, vice presidents are going to vice president, right? Vice presidents do this. The tradition is you just kind of stay in your place and you do whatever the president says. I get all of that. But then if you're a white male vice president, there's a runway that's laid out for you to be able to build a case for you to be the successor. All right. And that opportunity is not there for her. The prominent Black staffers that are leaving, I have no idea, but I think too, when you start out eating the fruit from the poisonous tree, she's ambitious. Then there's a culture of turmoil. So, you know, ambition and ambitiousness is a term that's used every day to kneecap Black women.
Yep.
So it's interesting that these other people are leaving. Well, were they too ambitious?
Yeah.
And when you set that up, you know, they can't hire Danielle and Moody Mills. Look how you talking on the show today. You can't go and work in the White House if they think black women are too ambitious. And
well, sure as hell don't want to work in anybody's White House.
I know, but what I'm saying is you couldn't go there and be Danielle Moody Mills. So the question is, could Kamala can't be Kamala? Could Ashley not be Ashley? Could Simone not be Simone? And he just have a great big deal of dysfunction. But here's the other thing, as we know, Politico, which has now been bought and owned, controlled by conservatives, is leading and is still considered one of the leading Beltway prognosticating, it's like, you know, the Beltway book.
Oracle. Mm-hmm.
The Oracle, yeah. They have been consistently hitting her. Here. And we've even heard that black folk over there who, in order to keep their jobs, have to join in with that. And it's a struggle internally there because Politico has made it their business to take out Kamala Harris. Now, to be fair, if I'm Kamala Harris and other people who support her there, and you've got, I mean, it's unfair. But if it's Simone Sanders and Ashley Etienne's job to fix that, to combat that, to come up with a strategy to end that, and people in there throwing blame, that's what COINTELPRO does. It has us all fighting against each other, right? And I'm sure that is what is happening because they have fostered that atmosphere. Politico has fostered the atmosphere in the West Wing. So now there are probably people pointing, well, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to stop this, you got to stop that. And now, mind you, it used to be a time when we'd get a phone call on Woke AF or on Make It Plain. Well, let's talk to Kamala Harris. Let's get her side of the story. But, you know, let's tuck her away. Let's not do anything. She is under ongoing fierce attack. And that also makes the hiding, I think, unfortunately, a self-fulfilling prophecy because you don't want to come out because you know whatever you say. She smiled too much, or she didn't do this right. She didn't shake the hand the right way. I mean, Politico is ready to, you expect it from Fox News, but Politico pounces on her every single day. And I'm gonna tell you something, unconfirmed. I can't confirm this, but there are some rumors that Ashley and Simone they didn't just leave in a huff of anger or resign, that they were fired. And it was simply because of Washington calculus. If you're my communications person and you can't fix my communications problem, you lose your job. That's just what it is. And what I'm saying is, even if whatever the case may be, the problem is not internal to Kamala Harris or Ashley or Simone, anybody else in this. Now there may be some folks on the inside, you know, because those are two black women. A whole lot of other folk in there are white. And they're probably some of the same people that came from the team, even if it's one of them. Don't take but one mole who agreed with, this woman's too ambitious. We didn't really want her. We wanted Gretchen Whitmer. Or we wanted, I wouldn't even take it away from her. We wanted Susan Rice. That's where this was going. And so people are left back. That's what politics is. People are left then to sabotage you in your term. And then, you know, who knows? They may not even be a person whose name, it may be low level on the totem pole, but they keep, you know, this, and there's instigation. So then you got black women being pitted against each other, and it's just confusion. And in Politico, somebody in there is talking to Politico, right? So that's not good. So I think that it's very complicated, and you're right. It's unfortunate. In closing, there needs to be a cease and desist from a different culture toward this black woman vice president, from a culture of a regular, everyday white man vice president. Treat her like that. Treat her office like that. Cover her that way. Did Al Gore go through this? Did Richard Nixon go through this when he was vice president running against John F. Kennedy? You know, did Walter Mondale go through this?
Nope.
None of these vice presidents, Hubert Humphrey, none of them went through this. But as soon as a black woman comes in there, did Kamala fire Etienne and Sanders? Did somebody else fire? I mean, so it's a lot. It's a lot. And lastly, I know it's going to say later, but let me make this absolute last thing. At the end of the day, too, I want y'all to think about this. The West Wing sees bad publicity for a vice president also is bad publicity for the incumbent president. And at the end of the day, that's his final decision. Wait, this is bad. So I need to nip this in the bud because this is going to be used against me. Because then the pressure is going to come to drop her from the ticket if he runs re-election. Put Buttigieg or somebody else on. I don't know. But I'm telling you right now, that's not going to fly. Don't get me wrong. You know, I don't dislike Buttigieg. I think he has some qualities. He's a charismatic dude. It's very hard to dislike him. And I think he's a worker. I think he will carry out the assignment that is given of him. But what makes him any different from someone else who can do that, who is closer to the base constituency of the Democratic Party? And Buttigieg just has rubbed the African-American community
the wrong fucking way.
The wrong way. And then even if it was just benign, I think it largely is. He don't motivate nobody. He's not gonna people like, oh my God, Biden Buttigieg, we gotta go get Pete Buttigieg. People say, well, what happened? And I'm gonna tell you right now, Kamala had her worst day. Nobody's gonna stand. If Kamala did the worst thing she could do, and she's not, but if she made the biggest mistake a vice president could make, no one is going to abide Buttigieg leapfrogging her. No.
And it like not women at large, like Black and brown women, white women, like no woman is going to turn around and be like, oh yeah, so you leapfrogged a woman and you went for the guy. Like that rubs us all the wrong way.
The wrong way.
Mark, as always, I love our supersized version of Plain as Fuck, of Make It Woke. I love our monthly crossovers, and I pray to God that we will still have a country in a couple of weeks when we get to come back and do it at the start of 2022.
Yeah, I hope so too. I love it too. It's always great. We have fun talking to each other. And frankly, on my show, I have guests every day, so I rarely get to express my thoughts and prognostications on things. So it's a good opportunity for me to do that. And so I do appreciate it. You're amazing. Wonderful. Happy holidays.
Happy
holidays. After she just called for the overthrow of the American system of government. Merry Christmas, y'all.
Merry Christmas. Wonderful.
Thanks for getting woke and listening to Make It Plain. Please remember to listen, like, and wherever you get your podcasts, please give the show a 5-star rating. And please do spread the word. Let's all continue to pray for each other during this pandemic and this police-demic. If all hearts and minds are clear, it has been made plain.